Hi, everybody. Welcome to Lunch with Stormy, Liberty Edition. We have an amazing guest today, and her name is Dee Dee Sorvino. This woman wears many hats, both literally and figuratively. She's multi-talented, fabulous, with vast experience, and here comes the list. She's a top political strategist. She worked in the President Bush's White House, George W. She's an actress, a stand-up comedian, podcast host, a student author, and an Emmy Award-winning television and radio personality. She's been featured across Comedy Central, Fox News Channel, Fox Business Channel, Al Jazeera, BBC, CBS Morning Show, The Talk, and the Patriot Channel, and I could go on. But she is a true original. She first caught the political bug at age 15, growing up in a small town in Indiana, and she's never looked back. Since then, her life has taken her to Washington, D.C., back to her hometown, and on to Fox News, and now into the perpetual spotlight with her husband, the legendary actor and the amazing good fella, Paul Sorvino. Dee Dee lives a glamorous bi-coastal life and also hosts her own podcast, Drinks with Dee Dee. This woman is so diverse, it's hard to know where to begin, but we're going to do it anyway. So let's dig into liberty and lunch with the whip-smart, entertaining, and energetic Dee Dee Sorvino. Welcome, Dee Dee.
Well, thanks, Stormy. After that introduction, I feel a little, nervous. No, not really, but thank you for that. That was very sweet of you. You covered everything, even Al Jazeera, which I sort of forgot I even did that.
Well, that was not a bad news channel, actually. Al Jazeera.
I think they did a nice job, actually. I agree with you.
Well, I hate to say this to him. You are so adorable and cute, and I have so enjoyed researching you because not only that, you're extremely smart and you stand for something, and that is amazing. So I want to thank you for that. And I find you fascinating on so many verticals that I literally didn't know where to start, but I wanted to start with where we were born. I was also born in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Hammond. Where were you born?
Exactly the opposite end.
Okay.
Well, actually, I grew up in Southern Indiana, but I was born in Kentucky. So Eastern Kentucky, like Mountain Mama, the whole thing. Scott Irish came over before the Revolutionary War, our family. I look very much the part today for that. But Southern Indiana is where I grew up. So you're in Hammond and by Chicago. And I grew up closer to Louisville and Cincinnati. And then that is where I am right now. Actually, we bought a place in Southern Indiana because the coasts are crazy and closed and pandemic central and whatever. So I decided I wanted to have a place at home whenever we wanted to get away. So it worked. So I'm in Madison, Indiana. So we have a home here. And we're at the lodge because we are fixing up. We have like a big townhouse. It's like 3 floors and putting elevators and things like that in. So right along the Ohio River where you are on Lake Michigan. Yes. Grew up Lake Michigan and I grew up along the Ohio River. So we're bookends to the state of Indiana, the great Hoosier state that I love. You have to come and visit.
I would love that. And those two opposite ends are very, very different. Mine's a little more urban and yours is very rural and peaceful and maybe some cornfields.
Oh, cornhole, cornfields, Johnny cakes, corn patties, all of it.
Yum.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, I love it here. But we don't miss a meal. Nobody does here. So it's great. I mean, and what's wonderful is like, look, I mean, after marriage, I worked for the president. So I lived in Washington, D.C. I worked with Fox News. I was in New York. And then I went to LA with my husband. And those are all okay places in their own way. They all have something to offer, but I prefer home. I prefer to get back to basics, and I prefer to, because that is why I feel like I can handle a lot because I'm very grounded, because people in LA seem to get a little lost here and there, because it's so vast and, it's the business and it's difficult and, it's always changing. But when you come here, all my friends, I say, please come visit. And they're like, wow, this is so pretty. This is so nice. Everyone's so sweet. I mean, it's good to have that in your life here and there, whenever you're, other than the big city.
I hear you. So I have, done some traveling and had a place in LA, but I'm in Utah right now. We moved here when I was a little girl, and it's the same thing. It's almost like you get here and it's your comfort food. It's like a warm hug, just a little more back to basics, a little more grounding, little less stress all the way around, I think.
Yeah, and people tell the truth. I like that. I like that whenever, it's not, oh, darling, I love you. And then behind the back, it's like, oh, I hate your guts.
Right. It's like, hate it for you.
You got to love and hate LA, but that's the part of LA that's just, okay, whatever. Like, I'm going to believe you. But if you're in Utah or in Indiana, people tell you the truth. It's a nice thing. It's like, oh, you're looking a little fat these days. I know. I'm fat and happy. I'm good with that. You got a problem? I don't. But in LA,
You don't look fat.
But in LA, they'll say, oh, darling, you look so perfect. I love it. Oh, let's have lunch. Mwah, mwah. And then behind your back, they're like, oh, I hate her. And she looks so fat. You know how it is. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not always like that, but it is funny. It's something you can laugh about. And, so it's just, I think where you are makes a big difference of, where you go. And it's good to be able, I love it that you're in Utah. Utah's a fabulous state. It's a beautiful state. The people are lovely. And although I don't think there's, because, my podcast is Drinks with Dee Dee. I don't think they have enough alcohol there. Are you even allowed to drink alcohol in Utah? I don't know. I thought it was outlawed.
Well, I think we tried many times, but no, the liquor store here are state owned, and you cannot buy wine in a grocery store. So we recently were able to sell grocery store beer that was above 3.2%. I think we were one of 2 states that still mandated that. And eventually the brewers were like, look, we're done making your special beer. You can have the beer
like
everybody
Bartles and James. You're probably too young to remember that, but Bartles and James, it's not even real alcohol. It's just silly. And it's just like, and then literally, and in some states, like on Sunday, they don't sell alcohol except for that stuff. And for me, that is not a drink. That is nothing. Because I'm saying, look, I've got cognac with my coffee.
I want to get to your political origin story because I watched so much of what you've done. And again, just kudos for being a woman that steps into that arena and then sees it through and stands for something. But you became interested in politics at just 15 years old. And I didn't know much about your parents. Did your parents kind of push you or inspire you to take that route? Or was it just a burning desire inside to make a difference in our country?
No, my parents are like, where did you come from? What in the world is going on? Because my mom is very sweet and mild mannered. She doesn't like any fighting going on, so she's like, what is this child I've had, and then my dad kind of the same way. So no, I just kind of popped up with it, but it was always like that. And I think it's sort of in your heart or it's not. So, in politics, that's the arena where you can really get something done. You can kind of complain and you can, but the airwaves, you can do things with that too. No doubt about it, that the airwaves, podcast, radio, TV is very powerful. But to actually make the difference, to actually change the law, to be involved in the political arena, that's when you are, making the law, writing the law, and then you are lobbying people to vote for it. And then it passes. And then I've got my liquor store in a corner.
In Utah.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. And where are you? Like, do you have siblings?
I do, but I'm just a different one. None of them were like that. It was not from my family. It was like from space or something, or I don't
higher
know.
Power.
It was just the powers that be that decided that I needed to rattle cages and work on getting things done and not be afraid of the fight. That's the big thing. I don't care if people don't like what I say. I don't care if people don't like me at all. I don't care. Why should I? I'm happy with myself. I don't need any friends. And I've got Paul and I've got the friends I have. I don't need any more. But what we do need is people that feel comfortable enough to step up, whether people like it or not. If you know it's right, that is what you should do, whether it be on the town council level, which I was an elected official on the town council. And believe me, it's harder than you think. And then I worked for the president of the United States. So I've worked on all levels of government, and it's all wonderful in its own way.
So were you a Republican out of the gate? Like at 15 years old, you identified there and you stuck with it?
In the womb.
In the womb.
Yeah.
Are your parents both Republicans?
I think people should be able to do what they want. I'm Daniel Boone. I'm like, look, you should be able to do anything you want. As long as you're not bugging someone else, that is up to you in your own life, whatever. Don't take my money. Don't take my guns. Don't take anything of mine, or you're going to get it. I've got lots of guns and weapons. I'm just saying. That's why I like being in Indiana, because in LA, I'd go to jail.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
It's interesting. So part of this lunch is to kind of educate people and maybe inspire them to run for office in their own zip code. But you were a councilwoman in your town. Mm-hmm. what were your duties there? Like, what was it that you did on a daily basis?
Well, you know, when you're working in municipal government, whether it's on the council or if you're a mayor, you know, you're dealing with things, glamorous things like trash pickup and you know, and dogs going into other people's yards. I mean,
Things that matter. Those are things that matter when
oh,
you're.
they absolutely do. And, you know, but it's fun because that's the closest level you are in government to people. So, you know, when you were dealing with the grease trap ordinance, it was non-exciting. However, probably my favorite project is we had a big old gym. It was the gym for my elementary school, and they were going to demolish it. And, you know, and I have a history degree and I love historic buildings. I'm like, no, this can't happen. So my favorite project there was saving the gym. So it's still there. Tyson Auditorium, it's still there. It's beautiful, but they were going to tear it down, no doubt about it.
Well,
but it's still there.
I think the reason I like talking about these municipal positions is because we all talk about the presidential race at the top of the ballot. And I don't think, well, maybe they do. I don't know what people think, but it's so important to drill down to those that are running your city, because that's where you live every day. And the federal government's going to do and influence it in a certain way. But when it comes to those issues like saving your gym, getting your dogs in your neighbor's yards instead of yours, it's super important that people educate themselves, not only on the candidate, but on the issues that candidate's going to affect.
Well, you know, those positions are really great and they're a great place to start. And many times, United States senators started as mayors or council people or, you know, on the county council, you know, they're great positions and I think it's fun. You know, it's a different kind of government, but it's all government. You know, if you really enjoy it and you really like helping people, I mean, look, on the national level, and when you're a legislator, say in Congress, it's different than being a governor, you know, because when you're a governor, you're the guy, you're the president of your state. That's like one of the best positions you could ever have.
Yeah.
You're the governor of your state, do it. But, you know, in Congress, it's always the deal. It's always, you know, trying to get like 10 of your friends or, you know, or, you know, whatever that mark of demarcation is of getting your law passed. And so there's constant maneuvering all the time. And some people don't like being part of that. Like there was a friend of mine, well, actually he ran for governor one. I've got a lot of friends that are governors actually. And they never wanted to do that. You know, I think they felt like it was being part of the board. You know, I mean, it was really never, I mean, they can push a law, but they were never really in charge. But still, it doesn't matter because if you're a member of Congress, it is a very important and very honorable position. I mean, a lot of times people make fun of politicians, and of course they do, but they'd still probably enjoy being one because there's so many wonderful things you can do.
And everybody can be one.
Yeah.
Like US citizens run for office. You know, you participate at that level, you're participating with your vote, you get to participate by throwing your name in the ring. And I recently did that.
You certainly should vote. People don't vote. I don't want to hear any complaints. It's just like, just go away. If you can't even take the time to vote, just move on.
Yeah, you don't get to talk about it if you're not going to vote.
I mean, you can talk, but I'm not going to listen, and I'm going to shame you and just say, you really need to participate if you're going to complain. You know, and then after you get more and more involved, I mean, I just really do encourage people to get involved on all levels. You know, even I was on the Board of Zoning Appeals. That was fun. You know, because just like people come in and like they want to build like this ugly little building now and you have the power. You have the power to say, no, you're not going to do that because it'll be like a blight in the neighborhood. It'll be horrible. Or when people let buildings fall apart and just like, well, they got to clean it up. Those are important parts of the community to make sure that it works well. I mean, and then legislators, I mean, that's just a different type of thing because that's the law. So it depends. I mean, do you want to get your hands, you know, involved in the nitty gritty, which is municipal government, which again, I can't say enough about because if you do that, it really does prepare you for everything. Because in a way, you're still a jack of all trades because you've got to deal with all these different issues other than laws. So go for it. You know, even if you lose, it doesn't matter. There were so many people in the political world that have been incredibly successful and they lost like 3 times, 4 times. Doesn't matter. They just kept trying. Eventually you will win unless you're like, you know, a total crazy person.
Well, some crazy people get in.
That's true. That's true.
So you also were the Republican National GOP committee woman in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I barely won that because it's usually women that are very, very, very rich and a lot older than me at the time. You know, you sort of earn your way into that because there are only two in every state and a chairman. There's a party chairman and then there's a national committee man, national committee woman. Very hard position to get. But my governor at the time, Mitch Daniels, who is now president of Purdue University, he wanted me to do that. He goes, look, we need to shake it up. We need some new blood on that committee because everyone's like 80 years old. You know, I mean, come on, the Republican Party, it's never the fun party. I always want to party with the Democrats. I'm not going to vote with them. But I do like hanging with them because they're kind of more fun. They're usually younger. So even when I'm 80, I probably want to hang with them. I'm still not voting with them. So
That's okay.
Unfortunately, you know, Republicans tend to, I don't know why, but well, I kind of do, but you know, they want you to earn your way in, where Democrats sometimes they're a little more open to, hey, let's give him a chance. But Mitch Daniels is that kind of thinker. I love Mitch Daniels. And he brought me in and wanted me to be national committee woman. So I was. And I was the youngest one on the committee.
I met Mitch at a Friedman Foundation dinner.
So great. So smart.
Really nice guy, yeah.
Smart. And then now my friend Eric, because you know, Eric Holcomb, who's the governor now, and he was his right hand. He was the one that would always implement everything. And now he's the governor. You know, and on the Republican National Committee, my best buddy is now the governor of Nebraska, and they own the Cubs and the Ameritrade. So it's fun to see these people in politics. They kind of keep moving up, usually, unless they really mess up. And that does happen.
And I think people need to remember they didn't start as a politician. You know, they had childhoods and different paths that got them there. So when folks say I'm not a politician, it's like, no, you just haven't entered the arena yet.
Right. And look at our president. He did nothing political. And he jumped right in and he won. I mean, so you never know. And then Biden's been there for years and years and decades. So, and he could be our next president. So, I mean, everybody's path is different. You really do not. In fact, it's usually, a lot of people see it as an advantage if you are not a politician or involved. You know, if you leap into the arena for Congress or the Senate from being a business person, people love that. So hey,
well, I'm hoping.
Well, and Mike Pence, just so you know, who I know very well, Mike Pence, vice president, he had a radio show.
Is that right?
Now, vice president.
What was this radio show about?
Well, the Mike Pence show, and he just talked about politics, you know, and he went to Hanover College like I did. And Eric, I don't know why, but all these people, you know, there's always 1 degree of separation with me, it seems, with Indiana people. So Eric Holcomb, the governor, and of course, Mike Pence was former governor as well. He ran for Congress. He really kind of he was kind of down in the basement. He wasn't doing well. He may have been in Congress and then he lost, or he didn't win at all. And it was terrible. He just wasn't doing well at all. And then he got a show, the Mike Pence show, and it changed his life. It changed everything. And he's so good at it. And then he ended up running for governor and won. And now he's the vice president of the United States because he had a talk show. Just so you know, Stormy.
It could happen to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And really media is a big platform and a good one to jump into politics. But that was exactly the route for Mike Pence because the political route wasn't working. But the talk show route did. And he won handily, and he was a wonderful governor, and I think a wonderful vice president. So there you go.
So the other position you had with the Republican National Committee was Technology and Finance Committee.
Yeah, well, you know, I like
to do there.
Well, technology, honestly, nothing. I mean, I couldn't even get this Zoom room to work before. I thought I was going to have to do it on my phone because I'm at Clifty Falls Inn, and it was like I had to like grab a guy in the hall. I'm like, dude, you got to help me with this. I mean, I'm okay with technology, but I certainly should never be on a technology committee. I think they just bundled it. But the money, I always want to be close to the money because that is power as well.
And were you fundraising in that part or spending?
I have, well, fundraising, but then, you know, it's always, when you raise the money, you usually have a hand in being able to spend it. So it's always going to be involved in that aspect. And, you know, a lot of people say New York is more powerful than Washington, D.C. because that's where all the money is. But other people say it's really D.C. because that's where the power is, but they really work hand in hand. If you don't have money, it's going to be very difficult to win. It just is what it is.
Yeah. And fundraising is hard. So I've recently, you know, did a little bit of it, but is there any, what's the secret?
I think for me, because I've had some pretty good luck with it, is you just have to be creative. Try to think of fun things people, and try to think of niches. Okay, housewives are going to want to do this. They're going to want to like have like showers and stuff and things I don't know anything about. But but you have to try to think about what their interest is. I mean, and then you have the gun lobby, and you go to a shooting range and you give away a shotgun. I think you just think, and doctors are a little different because you kind of like don't have to have a gimmick with them. They're either going to vote for you or not, and you just invite all the other doctors. You grab a committee of like 5 people that are very popular and senior, and then they invite 10 people, and then if you can get that done, that's the best. But with people like that, professionals, they tend to know what they want to do. And if you can get like the hierarchy, the people that have been around for a while, but it doesn't even have to be that. It can be younger too, but you have to have a good committee, and then they just invite their friends, and then you've got the money.
Oh, you make it sound so easy.
It's good to have a theme though, but some people don't need it, but a lot of people absolutely do, especially for the lower dollar. And then you have a big event. If it's a lower dollar event, you have a gigantic picnic or gigantic drive-in, because the pandemic, everything's like kind of messed up.
So hard.
You could do like, drive-in for dollars, something like that. You just make it creative and fun, and they'll come because everybody's bored now.
Oh my gosh, right? And the winter's coming. And if you're in a snowy state, you better like buckle in. So you go on, you transition to working as a commentator for Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. How did you like it?
I loved it. It was great. Well, of all people got me into it, but is Steve Bannon. I don't know what's going to be. He's like having a little bit of a hard time right now. But Steve Bannon, he got me hooked up with Jesse Waters, who has his own show now. So he said, look, Jesse, this girl, she's, really creative and fun, and she's, a patriot. So will you introduce her to some producers? So he did. And then I got on these shows, and they kept asking me, and that was the end of that. I mean, that was like that quick. So then I was on all the shows. And then they were going to put me on the path of contributorship, which that's what they do. They'll call you in. They say, well, we're interested in you being a contributor. And then if you're a good contributor, you might get on a show or even have your own show. So, but at the time I had this other show I was doing where I could win an Emmy, because if you're a Foxy, that doesn't really happen. It just doesn't. So I'm like, well, I really would rather not do that right now, because I think I'm about to win an Emmy. And they're like, nobody's ever told us no before. Blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm not saying no. I just don't want to do it right now. Because I said, well, could I do the show too? No. When you're in the Fox box, you're at Fox. You're exclusive. You don't run around to CNN or Al Jazeera or, or whatever. OAN. So I said, well, I think I'd rather pass right now. And they're like, nobody passes. It wasn't like I was going to pass forever, but I didn't want to give up that opportunity because I thought it was going to happen. And I love the other show. Well, sure enough, I got the Emmy. So I made the right decision. Yeah. And now I don't do that anymore, not because I'm married to Paul. And when you're in LA, it's not good to be a Republican. They hate you. But they'll give you a pass if you stop doing, because I'm like, oh, hey, give me a break. I stopped, all right? Give me a break. I'm married to Paul, and I did it for my husband, so then I transferred to Drinks with Dee Dee.
I want to transition into George W., who I was able to meet once at a lunch in Utah. And I have to say, meeting an acting president is truly an honor. You come behind, you're standing behind, I think it was literally a bulletproof curtain. It was so heavy. I've never felt anything like it. I had to feel it. But you come around the corner, and this man, immediately I picked up on his charisma. There was something about him that was kind and welcoming, I felt. Now, granted, I met him for 5 minutes. But you could feel it in the room. Like, he really held a presence.
He's a total stud. No, everyone loves George Bush. He is so great. He's a star. I mean, he's like a celebrity type. It's like you walk up and you're like, oh my gosh, I saw it many, many, many times. And he's really very genuine. There's not a fake bone in his body. He says what he thinks, and he's just really, really. So you're right. I'm so glad you got to meet him, because he's a really great guy.
Warm and welcoming, and just there was something about him where I thought, oh, this must be that you need to become president, because he absolutely had it.
Well, I think that most presidents do. I mean, Obama, I don't agree with his politics at all, but he's very charismatic and people like him very much. And of course, because I'm loyal to my country, if I met him, I would be very respectful and honored to meet him, because it's the position that you have to honor. And if you don't, shame on you. So yeah, he's charismatic as well. And, President Bush, 41 and 43, they're both special in their own way. But the president I worked for, 43, very much just a rock star. I mean, it's just like you meet him, and I remember really little girls and older women would just swoon. They would swoon with him.
I get that.
He just has that. But I think the same thing, to be fair enough, I think Obama had the same thing. I mean, I think they've just got that kind of rock star charisma that, it's not a bad thing to have.
No, and it's important to feel it. I think that's what happens. Now let's talk about Karl Rove. Does he have it?
No. No, Karl is just a brainiac. He's just so smart. A lot of people hate him, but he brought me in, and he was my mentor, and he is so smart. I mean, he's just his mind is a gigantic computer at NASA. I mean, and anyone who's been around him will see that. Then I will tell you that, I worked on the Bush campaign, and I was probably 6 feet away from his office. I had this little tiny desk that barely fit in between, because campaigns are not big and it's not glamorous. It's not like,
it's hard.
Your campaigns, it's hard. So, but I had the best spot because I was right there by the office. So the night that Gore said, okay, well, I concede, but now I don't. And we're like, what? We're out in the streets of Austin celebrating or whatever. And then he's like, I'm not going to concede now, which of course led to Florida. So, we're all upset. I'm like this, crumpled on the floor by Karl's office.
Crying.
I mean, we're all like, what is going on? And he said, Dee Dee, do you want to go to Florida, or do you want to stay here in Austin? If so, you'll be on the first plane out. Because, I was a hard worker, and I would, and I'm like, because I was basically his assistant. So I was like one person away from everything. And I said, no, I want to stay in Austin. I didn't want to go to Florida until I had to, but we all had bags packed, ready to go. But my point about him being so smart, if not for Karl Rove, President Bush, for that night alone, would not be president. Because he said, no way Florida should be called. You haven't even gotten to the panhandle part of the state. You cannot call it. So he called, went crazy or whatever. So if you remember, and we remember this very well, I just got chills thinking about it again. They called Florida very, very quickly. And we were in a party, not the party to celebrate, but the party for the campaign and gather together. And Karl was there, and he darted out the door, and he got on the phone, and he got them to change it. If he had not done that, Gore would have been president, and that would have been it. That's how smart he is. So he made the cause for them to turn it back. And then, of course, there was the big fight with the Chads and all that. But if not for Karl, none of that would have happened. And there would have not, President Bush wouldn't have even had a chance, because because they decided to call Florida early. Like, they have that power. They shouldn't have that power. There weren't enough ballots in yet. The ballots weren't even counted in the panhandle yet. So that's
an important piece. Yeah, it is.
And then 9/11, same thing. 9/11 was a different thing. It's like, because a lot of people wanted the president to stay away from DC, but of course, Karl is always supportive of the president. The president said, I am not doing that. I'm going back. I'm the president of the United States. I need to be the leader, and I need to go back. I don't care. And that's the way President Bush is. Strategy's a big part of everything. But for him, that was President Bush's decision. That was out of his heart, saying, I am not staying in a bunker out in Colorado, where the hell I am. I'm going back to DC. I want to be a leader, and I'm going to show everyone that we're going to be okay. That was a big
wherever
deal.
That bunker is. So you get to the White House with that same team. And what are your days like? What are the things that you do?
Well, the crazy thing is, I ended up being Miss Hollywood, and then I ended up marrying Paul, which is a surprise, because after I dealt with all the Hollywood actors, I said, I never want to be with these people again. They're horrible. Meaning that they're very demanding. Actors are, stars. I mean, maybe not all actors, but stars, right. Celebrities can be very demanding. So they would come in, they go, well, when we were with Clinton, we stayed in the Lincoln bedroom. So we want to do that tonight. And I'm like, yeah, dude.
It's not an Airbnb.
That is the home of the president of the United States and the first lady. There will be no guests tonight. I mean, things like that, crazy stuff that, because with Clinton, it was a party. I mean, I'm sure it was a blast, to be there, but
right.
Bushes weren't like that. And because I dealt with Hollywood and dealt with like movie premieres, that sort of thing, it really was kind of difficult, because they were early to bed, early to rise. So it wasn't that easy to get movies screened. Like, the first one I did was with Mel Gibson. And he was great. He's wonderful. And he came like 3 times to try to get it done. All the Paramount people came. It was a military movie, and they're pro-military, so they wanted to do it. And just a lot of fun opportunities with that. But I dealt with Hollywood, amazingly enough. And then I ended up in Hollywood, a Hollywood actor. And it was such a surprise because they were so difficult. I said, I will never deal with these people again. And then I married one. So it's funny how things.
There you go. Yeah. Whenever you say you'll never, that's exactly what happens next. So
You're right.
who's more difficult to deal with?
Never say never. Never say never.
Ever. Top politicians or top celebrities? Who do you think is more demanding?
Celebrities.
Really?
Absolutely. Well, they're not as smart. No offense. Look, I'm just going to say it the way it is because I always do. Usually they're just like feel entitled. Like, I'm a celebrity, so give me this, give me that. I'm like, why? What did you do? I mean, I'm sorry, but the politicians, they're, I would say maybe, let me change that. They may be equally demanding, but the thing with the politicians, they're very businesslike about it. They're like, look, I would like this, this, and this, and I will do this for you. And they kind of cut the deal right then and there. Where celebrities are like, well, because I am famous and pretty, you need to give me this, that, and whatever, just because. Well, with a politician, that's not the way it works. They're giving you something in return. It's either going to be like a law that you want done, or there's going to be a money exchange. That doesn't sound right, a money exchange, but a donation. Yeah. I mean, there are usually reasons to meet with. It's a business. It's sort of an organized business. And usually if you were in Congress or in the Senate, which Congress is the Congress and the Senate, but if you're a congresswoman, a senator, the president, even a cabinet official, you're usually a pretty darn smart person. I mean, you usually have to have it together to get there. Celebrities, I've met many. Look, some are brilliant. My husband's brilliant, but a lot of them aren't that smart. I mean, they got there on sheer talent. So they're a different animal. You know what I'm saying? It's like a different animal. Not always, but so many I've dealt with, and I'm like, I don't get you. I just don't get you, because that sense of entitlement, I don't get. At least the politicians earned it. Not that I agree with a lot of them and what they do, but they did at least work hard. A lot of these people, they kind of luck into it, and then it's a sense of entitlement that shouldn't be there, and then they lose it, and then they're like and then that's when they turn the drugs and go to therapy, 3 therapists.
Well, and that is sad for every family that deals with that.
I mean, look, I'm over exaggerating, but
I know.
But it is a wonderful question, because I've definitely been right in the middle of both. And I always say that Hollywood is much prettier. Politicians, for the most part, are not good looking. I don't know. You've got a few good looking guys, a few beautiful women. And Christy, no, my gosh, the governor of South Dakota is gorgeous. That doesn't happen usually, but in Hollywood, they're all gorgeous. But so you've got more brains. I mean, you've heard in Hollywood that DC is what is it, ugly Hollywood or something like that, or the Hollywood for ugly people.
They're not what they say. That's terrible.
They do. I know, but look, I mean,
they could dress cuter. They could spice it up with little cuter wardrobes. Let's be honest.
But they don't care. That is not their mission, and that's not their background. That's not how they grew up. That's not what they wear. In LA, they have stylish people who dress them, people who do their hair, people who put stuff in their face, people who give them diets, give them cleanses. In DC, nobody has time for that nonsense. I mean, look, it works because they look better, or some of them, until they overdo it, and then they look like a clown face. But you know what I mean? I mean, just the emphasis in LA is all about looks. And in DC, it really is about the brain, because if you don't have your act together, you're going to have a lot of problems.
That's right. That's right. So I want to ask one more question, and then I want to move to the 2020 races. Do you think how was it being treated? Did your gender play any part of politics? Do you feel like there was equality along the way, or did you feel like there was some differences?
No.
No?
No, I never had that. I get so sick of hearing women whine, saying, "You're not giving me this because I'm a woman." I don't want you to give me anything because I'm a woman. You know what? I want a meritocracy. I get what I get because I've earned it, not because I'm a woman. So I don't like that, and I think it's way overstated, and especially with that's another thing with that Hollywood movement. I don't like it, because.
So what do you say when people refer to women as a minority?
Nothing. I don't listen to that. I'm like, whatever.
You don't believe it. Right.
I just say whatever. I'm like, what is your problem? I mean, don't insult me by trying to give me a job because you're filling a spot because I'm a woman. Don't insult me. I don't want your spot because I'm a woman. I don't operate that way. I think it's pathetic. In my opinion, those women who do that are insulting me. So sorry, but that's how I see it.
No, you should call it like you see it. That's what
I
that's
don't
one
like
of the
that.
things
I
I
don't
love
like
about
that.
you.
Give me equal rights. Well, why don't you take it? What's your problem? I mean, come on. I mean, whine. No, just go and do it.
Let's talk about 2020 and these predictions, your predictions, if there are predictions. So, what do you think about, when Trump said he likes to grab women by the, our private parts?
I mean, I don't think it was very nice, but I'm not going to not vote for him for it. I mean, who would I be to be like, oh, if somebody says something rude, I'm not going to vote for him now. No, that would, in fact, they taped him. It was a private conversation. So I've said a lot of horrible things in private, and if they tape me, they wouldn't like me either.
Right.
But
We're not gonna bug your lodge room.
usually, but I don't care. Go ahead. I mean, the thing is I just always put it out there anyway. So yeah, I thought that was kind of I don't think it was a very nice thing to say, but it wouldn't change me voting for him because a lot of people say very rude things in private, especially me.
What do you think about our political environment today? Like, does this feel healthy for us, for America? Does it feel like, hey, we're moving in the right direction? And I mean the pitting against each other, just the environment that this election is carrying.
Well, look, I mean, it's definitely a fight. It's a war. And we're at the point, I have a history degree. So we're at that point where countries get to a certain amount of years where, it happened in Rome. Rome was it was the Roman Republic. I mean, and then things started to deteriorate. And that happens when you've got a big superpower, which we are, and things start to change. And we were right on the cliff. We are right on the cliff of things changing. You couldn't get a bigger difference. Biden and Harris, I can't stand Kamala Harris. To me, I can't stand any word she says, but that's just my opinion because I'm a conservative woman. I can't stand what the woman says. Biden seems to be a little nicer, but I don't think he's all there. That's just my opinion. Look, Trump was rude the other night. I mean, he just was. You had the rude guy, you had the guy that seems he had dementia. I mean, and then you had the host that was horrible. I mean, really, I give Trump and I give Biden a pass. I have no problem with them. The person I had a problem with was Chris Wallace. What are you doing interjecting yourself like this in a situation that is going to change history or not? I mean, there are more debates, but that was horrible. So I give the big F. I give the big fail to Chris Wallace. Trump is rude. Many times he is. No surprise. Biden didn't have his act together. Everybody knows that. He's got trouble kind of putting things together. But both of them were kind of who they are. So I don't think that there were any shifts, but it was not a good debate. It was crazy. I said, I will give someone $1,000 if they'll bring me a bottle of bourbon because I didn't have any. I'm like, what am I thinking? I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but no, that was not good. I mean, so the country is very divided, but it's divided by the numbers. It is half red and half blue.
It's so interesting. It's going to be a really important election. So out of everyone in your lifetime that has been president, who's your favorite?
Trump.
What?
And I love President Bush, but I like Trump's style because I just do. I don't care that he's rude. I don't care that he says things like that. I love what he does. I mean, the man works early in the morning to late at night, and everybody gets hung up on the fact that I don't like the way he talks. He's so mean. He's so rude. And he is. Look, I'm not apologizing for his style. He is out there. There's no doubt about it. But I look at what he does. Since I worked for the president, I love President Bush, but I give Trump the edge just because he's more conservative. Perhaps in his personal life, probably not, but in his policies, he's done a lot of great things, but I don't care about that. I would rather have the jerk as a doctor, the guy who's an ass in his real life, but he's going to do a good job, like with my heart, than the guy who, hi, how you doing? You're so nice. And he's not a good doctor. I want the person who's going to do the job. I don't really care what you do in your life. See, I'm a libertarian. I'm not a social conservative, which means that I judge you on your religion, or I judge you on your lifestyle, or who you sleep with, what you do. You want to go. I don't care about that. I don't care what you do. It's not my business. You as an American should be able to do anything you want in your life, as long as you're, not hurting someone else. That's
right. And hurting people is really the key here, is like not hurting people, not wanting them to hurt each other. I think that if we just stay with that for our country, that maybe we can all get through it. Do
Not
you?
the action speaks louder than words, person. So that's why I give Trump a pass where a lot of people don't. They're real sensitive. They don't want to, especially suburban housewives. They really don't like it. And I understand, I get it. But for me, it doesn't bother me. I want to see what you've done. And I appreciate, his policies and what he's done.
Yeah, and his actions, they, as a president, your actions all the way through as a representative of our country should be under the microscope, and his is as president. And I think that's what people need to look at and then make their decisions, just like, you have on how he acts or what his actions are.
Oh, and he may lose for that reason. If he loses, it probably will be his personality and attitude and things he says that he shouldn't. I mean, like, he didn't need to interrupt the other night. He would have done much better if he just let Biden talk. I mean, but he didn't.
Yeah, we learn
interrupting.
core issues. Yeah, we learn core things as children. I think we should carry those things just of respect and stuff throughout. I want to say I love about you that you stand for something and that you say what you think. That's so important in our time. But you also like extend beyond your comfort zone over and over and over. Like right now, you're doing Harvard University online, and that list that I went through is a lot, but if people look into you, you've done a lot and you do it differently. When I saw this, that you were a stand-up comedian, which is one of the most vulnerable positions I think anybody could take, yet you did that too. I was like, what? This woman, you do whatever you want. I am running for office on the opposite side, right, in Utah, but this is about educating listeners about folks that have actually been there and talking about what they've done and then what they do next, and the inspiration about really becoming a part of our political system. So it's not my platform today. It really is yours. So I
root for the good Democrats. I mean, look, I believe in the two-party system. I mean, and when I was at Fox, I was never hanging out with the Republicans because I would debate Democrats, and then we go to dinner or drink.
Go have drinks.
Yeah, of course. So I had a lot of Democrat friends, and I don't agree with them. I mean, but I appreciate them, and especially if they do it the right way, because there are Democrats I like, and there are those who like I mentioned Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, I don't apologize for that because I just don't care for her, and that's my prerogative, and I'm sure she would hate me. So whatever, but because a lot of people can't stand Donald Trump, and I understand it. I understand his personality is grating, and he's rude, and he's callous, or whatever. But I look at what he does, and I just see past all of that. But you know what? If he doesn't win, it's probably going to be for that. So it's not nothing. I mean,
yeah, we all have a voice in that. Do you? What do you do so you got married, and it wasn't that long ago, to Paul Sorvino, who I think everybody knows and loves, in The Goodfellas. I mean, we don't have to say what a classic movie that is. Every guy I've ever met loves Goodfellas. I think every guy I've ever met really wants to be just a little part of that mafia.
You're so right, Stormy. You're exactly right.
They just love it, and we talk about it. And Ray Liotta was also amazing in that movie. But you guys were came together later in your life, right? Which is inspiring to me. I'm a single woman. I'm divorced, but
you're very pretty and very engaging. You're a hot lady. And if you run for office, you're going to have them lined up around the corner. You may not want them.
Well, I just need one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. For a while, maybe a few might be okay. Never know.
You never know. But you guys are really, really cute together, and you wrote a book together that I did take a look at, and I think it outlines both your personalities, which is pasta, Pinot, and parties, or Pinot, pasta, and parties.
Pinot, pasta, and parties. You got it right. Yeah.
And you should throw politics in that, Pinot, pasta, parties, and politics, because you're really good at engaging in that. But
it's very astute, Stormy, because initially it was Pinot, pasta, and politics. Then I got with Paul, and I changed it because, again, see, Paul is beloved. Everybody adores Paul. And then I was still doing Fox whenever, we met on Fox News on the Neil Cavuto show, but I was still doing it. And then people were starting throwing bombs at him. And I'm like, he doesn't deserve that just because I'm a crazy to the left, or I'm sorry, crazy to the right. Like, political.
I caught that, by the way. I was like, what?
Yeah. So, I'm to the left here and there, look, again,
you just beat the drum.
Because I'm fine, I'm not like, well, I have to be, I don't like that. I don't like the judgmental Republicans. I'm not like that. I really want people, I don't care if they're crazy and rude and whatever. They should be allowed to do what they want and then deal with the consequences. What I don't like with the social conservatives, they're the Republicans that say, you can't sleep with that person, or you can't act that way, or you can't drink. I'm like, who are you? I mean, this is America, buddy. So the Republican Party is supposed to be like, you all do whatever you want to do. I'm for guns and I'm for my freedom. So that's really why I'm a Republican. For me, it's simple. The other stuff I really don't get into. I don't like judgmental people. I don't. Meaning someone, but don't like judge someone on their like religion or their like sexual orientation or where they live or if they're whatever. I don't like
none of that matters. Nope. And so was Paul, your Hollywood husband. Did he get kicked out of the club too?
No, everybody loves Paul. Paul's Paulie. So I got out very quickly because I felt like it was barely starting. It was sort of a fringe thing. Like Paul's like, well, I used to like, it was like 5 people, but it was enough for me to realize I don't want this to happen to my husband. It's not fair to him to have my political leanings to hurt him. It's not right because, look what happened to James Woods. I mean, they hate James Woods and he's a great actor, but they hate him now.
Great actor.
Yeah.
I love him.
And all the conservatives, they just pounce on it. And I didn't want that to happen to Paul. So I just pulled out totally. And I went to writing a book and doing a podcast and acting. And it's fun. And it's great. I miss the politics, but I always say like to my Hollywood friends that I'm like, look, you all don't be mad at me. I gave up my career for you.
That's right. That's
and
right.
they're like, you know what? And they're all cool about it. They're like, okay, that's cool. And so it's not been a real problem here and there, but for the most part, people get it. They're like, okay, that's cool. If you're that devoted to this craft or to this career to give up all of that, because it's not like I wasn't doing anything, I was. And then, but I really more for Paul than for me. It wasn't fair to him to get any grief for it. So I stopped very quickly. I mean, and I've been out of politics and out of doing, and I still get asked to do it, but I just always say no.
Do you, well, you can see in the interviews with you and Paul, which people should go look at because it's totally cute, that you do put each other first. And you just mentioned your podcast, Drinks with Dee Dee, and we're going to have to wrap up here. So I want you to be able to, I know, it went so fast, Dee Dee. I just want you to know, I don't want to kick you out of any club. I hope we stay in the same club.
I hope you win. I mean, I'm a Republican, and believe me, I don't lie. Ask anyone. Even the Democrats are like, really, we hate her, but she doesn't lie. And if we have to have someone in the bunker, she's a good one.
Yeah. Well, that means a lot to me. That I'm going to kind of say I just got your endorsement.
Okay. Well, you can kind of say that. That's fine. And what does my endorsement mean? I hope it helps. I mean, so but the reason I say that is seriously, I do believe in a 2-party system. And I like to have good Democrats involved because we have to have Democrats and Republicans. I don't want an empire. I don't want an empire because when you have all Republicans, it gets corrupt. When you have all Democrats, it's corrupt as well. You have to have that balance. And I absolutely believe in a Republican, believe in that balance. So I do want good Democrats. So I do hope you win.
Thank you so
Unless you're running against a friend of mine that I don't know. I mean, you never know. I have a lot of Republicans.
I think you'd like me better. I'm just at a state level right here in my zip code for the state legislature.
What are you running for? State rep or state senator?
Rep. I'm starting as a House of Representatives. The way I learn is from the bottom up, and that's how I like it. I like getting my hands dirty and learning my way through it, and to step into politics, having not done so before. This is a good entry level for me. And I think not only could I learn a lot, but if I decide to take a path further, I can take it with me. And I think that a full understanding of that system would be best for someone like me.
You're actually starting very high. I mean, look, that's high level to be a state representative. And then when you win, you'll be the honorable. You'll be the honorable. You know that, right? You will always be the honorable, even when you're not a state rep anymore and you move up to senator or governor or whatever you do, or then you get out of office, you will always be the honorable.
Oh my gosh, I hope I win. I need that.
Don't run again. I mean, just keep running. I mean, because you're obviously, you've got a lovely personality, you care about the world, and you're very smart. You're a great woman, so do it. Go for it.
Thank you. And I need to plug your stuff. I need to plug you before we have to go. So Drinks with Dee Dee, it's coming out soon, right? You haven't launched yet, but it's launching very soon. And you have had some really cool guests on there. I've seen.
Yeah, today is number 8. We're going to have Svengoolie. Do you know Svengoolie? He's on MeTV. He does like all those like old horror movies.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, Sammy Terry, you're a Hoosier. Do you know who Sammy Terry was? Remember, like he dresses up kind of like a ghoul and he plugs all these old like horror movies.
Yes.
So
Yes.
anyway, on MeTV, he's very popular on Saturday night. He's got a big following. So we're going to talk Halloween movies. And then I've got a drink in my book called The Green Witch made with absinthe, which they outlawed until like 1987 because they thought it was killing people. I mean, so anyway, it's a great time on Drinks with Dee Dee. Soon, Tony's going to have it everywhere, just like your podcast. Everywhere, even on Mars. They're going to love it there.
That's right.
And on social media, Dee Dee Sorvino is pretty much everywhere. So, on Instagram, Facebook, look me up. But soon the podcast like yours will be on all platforms.
And people need to listen to it because you're as fiery and as fun on your podcast as you were today. So even though we're on different sides of the political aisle, and by the way, I've been all three. I've been a registered Republican, Libertarian, and a Democrat. And I think that we have the right to change our minds as much as we want maybe it can stand as an example for all of us in America to have these conversations, regardless of if they're, the only difference is a D or an R next to the name. And it's okay. Like, this is the democracy our country was built off of. We have so many different people in this country, religions, colors, faiths, all of it. And every single one of them belong here. We both belong here. And, whether it's an extreme belief or a light belief or, I go across, there's no way you can line up Democratic Party fundamentals and say, oh, I'm every one of those, or Republican ones and say, oh, I'm every one of those.
Reagan always said, Stormy, which most Democrats.
I loved Reagan. Yeah.
So he said, if you agree with it was either 70 or 75% with me, we're good. Because you're never going to agree. Look, like I said, the religious, like hateful Republicans, they hate me. They can't stand me. And they're like, what is wrong with her? She's so ill, like acting. She's got like such bad manners, because I can't stand that. They're too judgmental. So I don't get along with them, but I just want my guns. I was born in Kentucky. Everybody has to give me a break on that. Democrats don't like guns.
I am a gun-toting Democrat. And it's not that I like guns, but I have guns.
Love weapons.
Yeah. I'm not taking them with me as I travel around, but I do have them. And I think that our amendments are written, and that is our Constitution. And there are many things that matter more in this country today than guns. And it's locked in. Our Constitution is our Constitution. And there are other things that we can look at. And part of that is peace and having conversations with people across the aisle, a term that drives me crazy, but we have to say it because everybody knows what it means. And then being friends anyway. Like, there is peace on our horizon. Everybody,
peace through strength, girlfriend. Peace through strength. That's just what I believe in. So we're in agreement. We both want peace. I like peace through strength. I think that was another Reagan thing.
Tolerance, understanding, and taking the time to learn about each other. Maybe have your mind changed, maybe not. But either way, the worst thing we can do is hate. And I can't hate you.
You're so sweet. Oh, I hate a lot of people. I'm bad.
You stop it, Dee Dee. Stop hating.
I only hate the people who are mean to like little kids, or they're people who deserve it. I'm just saying, I'm there.
I hate them
deserve it. I'm there. You know what I mean? So
I hate them too.
I appreciate you being a loving, wonderful person. And right now we do need that because the country is very divided. No doubt about it. So good for you. Run for office. You'll be fabulous. And I think you'll win.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on your podcast. You're so sweet.
Yep. Find Dee Dee. Find her on Instagram, Dee Dee Sorvino. Find her everywhere. Her podcast, Drinks with Dee Dee, where she makes every hour happy. Even if you disagree with this woman, she is happy. And thanks for joining us on Lunch with Stormy, a Liberty edition. Join our conversation by visiting me at stormysimon.com. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating, especially with this woman. Thank you so much.
Love you, Stormy. Good luck.
I love you back.
Yay.
Thanks, Dee Dee.
Bye-bye.
Bye.